All right, overall 9.0.5 notes. Let's just go over them and talk about, well, again, we're going to test these later tonight, so I may do another one of these going over how I feel about them, because, again, a lot of these are untested, just like the initial thoughts. I'm going to skip a lot of these adventure stuff. It's like Covenant stuff. I don't really care. It looks like these are mostly the, like, companions for the each Covenant, and I actually don't think I've run one of these in multiple months, so... Okay, so this is actually nice. I'm actually interested to see how this looks tonight. So Ashen Hollow and then a bunch of the, like, really visually intensive... let me turn on my music a little bit. A bunch of the visually intensive ones are actually nerfed visual effectiveness. None of these were really that bad. Ashen Hollow was, like, kind of a lot on your screen, but I honestly think Ashen Hollow being seen is really nice. Because, like, you want to make sure you're, like, in it, right? So I actually don't get this one, but this one for sure. I'm so glad they nerfed this. I can't wait to see what it looks like, because if you have, like... Dude, imagine doing progression with 4 Unholy Decays. Imagine doing progression with 4 Unholy Decays. Like, you literally cannot see anything in melee when they have their 2 minutes up. You can't see a single thing. Soaring Mist isn't that bad. It depends on what class you're on. So, for example, or what race you are. So let me log on Thundercraig. Okay, look how big Swarming Mist is. Oh wait, they might have nerfed it. Never mind. It'll probably be different now. Do you guys remember when I was doing it, when I swapped to Panda on this character, what it looked like? Do you guys remember? It was, like, huge. I did it in the undercover thing like a week or so ago. But, like... Okay, let me see what it is now. Okay, so this is what it looks like for me on Panda. Look how ridiculous that is. This is what everyone else saw last patch. So I imagine it's, like, been nerfed now, but, like, look how fucking huge it is on Panda. So they nerfed that for other players. Death's Due was always pretty annoying to look at and hard to see, although it's not really noticeable because no one plays it. Okay, so Wild Spirits is weird. They started the expansion with Wild Spirits not being able to be seen, and then it was, like, kind of... And then we wanted it to be seen because, like, people were pulling everything out of Wild Spirits. And then now they're nerfing it again. So hopefully, if they nerf it, it's, like, all of the very bright visuals that they nerf and not the, like, actual radius. Like, we need to see where it is, right? So that's fine. A lot of the other ones weren't really played very much. All right, many abilities are now better at avoiding in-combat enemies that the player is not engaged with. Oh, okay. So... things like Convoke, Starfall, Chain Harvest, Fell Bombardment. Okay, so those are better at, I'm assuming, breaking CC and also pulling mobs that are not currently pulled, which is good. Did you guys see the Unholy Pact bug, by the way, the other day? I wonder if they ever... I mean, it has nothing to do with, like, the game. It's, like, some lag thing, but we made so many ads at the beginning of P1 Denathrius that Atlas's Unholy Pact hit 287 times in, like, 0.1 seconds and lagged the entire raid and no one could do anything. And he was doing like 60 KDPS or something, and then we instantly wiped. I thought that was hilarious. Okay, so Covenant abilities. Shackle was increased by 15%, and damage reduction was increased. That is, like, so... what I hate about this is it looks good for blood, because this, before the buff, was technically already the best raid damage blood decay Covenant already. Shackle the Unworthy. And they made it better defensively, and they increased its damage. So... that's going to make it even better. Small problem, it is probably the least fun Covenant ability to play in the entire game. So I really hope that if Blood ever becomes meta, which it could be, I hope that you... I actually hope Kyrian isn't good because of how not fun it is to play. But yeah. Okay, A-Bomb's limb changes. No longer pulls stealth, that's fine. Death's Due and reduction debuff and strength debuff was 2% per stack. Now 1% now stacks to 4 times was 8. Okay, so it's just easier to stack and deal with. Honestly, that could see some use, specifically on Blood in the future, but we'll see. Also, like, I think Night Phase is such a good Blood Decay Covenant anyway, just because I feel like if any class in the game benefits from Soul Shape, it's like DK or like Paladin specs, basically, so. So a few Demon Hunter changes. I heard, again, I heard these, I guess it'll have to be tested. Do you guys know in chat if specifically the Fodder to the Flame change, the Necrolord one, have people been testing it on single target? Like, obviously there's multiple benefits, right? 1.5 per minute proc rate, it explodes for a certain amount of damage and heals you or whatever, but then you also get a Demon Soul, which increases your damage by a good bit. So has anyone actually, like, done sims on this? I'm actually not sure. It's minus 2% compared to Night Fae. Oh, that's pretty big. Yeah, I really wish they gave them a better single target one, man. They don't need AoE. Demon Hunter's AoE is so good. They just need more single target. But I'm sure they'll be able to try. Probably not too much to look at here. They nerfed the Conduit for Decree. Fell Defender. Okay, do we have a consensus over whether this was a buff or a nerf? Because I think people love the Fiery Brand Legendary and, like, the Fiery Brand build, I guess. But, so I've heard people say that, like, they thought it was a nerf, but it really looks like a buff. Because I think Fell Devastation and then, obviously, by proxy, Meta is just better than Fiery Brand. So I think that's, like, a big buff. But I've heard people imply that it was a nerf, so maybe it's not as big of a buff as I thought. But maybe it's dependent on the situation, who knows. But cool change, nonetheless. Buffed Resto Druid's healing, much needed. Obviously, you guys know my take on that. Won't go too far into it. Resto Druid always needs to do more healing. Adaptive Swarm. Oh, that's the Necrolord one. I don't think anything changed with Covenant abilities for any of them, so I'm not really going to look too much into it. Okay, so Hunters. Basically, what's the deal with Hunter this spec, or this patch? And I don't know if I agree with it. Again, we're going to test it in Raid tonight, but I don't know how I feel about the Hunter change, because really what they did is nerf their single target by like 5%, but we already looked at it earlier, right? Like Hunters don't... Hunter's single target isn't exceptional already. It's good, but like, okay, Castle Nathria statistics 9.0. Let's look at damage to bosses on like a couple of popular boss dam fights, right? So ranged Hunger Destroyers are a good fight to look at. Like, they're good, but they're not top tier, right? If you look at Sludgy, they have decent cooldowns for it, and they're an often power infusion target on the second pillar if you're doing it correctly. They're you know, middle of the pack. Let's look 95th percentile to be a little bit more accurate. For like a mythic raid, maybe 75th. You know, they're middle of the pack, right? Look at the numbers. Sire to Nathrius boss damage, right? Like, they're middle. So like the only thing that actually had Hunters in raids this past year was because of the potency of Wild Spirits. But Wild Spirits got a direct nerf, which puts Hunters in a very weird spot. We haven't seen them try BM yet, but if I'm a Hunter player and Wild Spirits is no longer has the same niche that it used to with the interaction with the Serpent Legendary, Serpent Sting. We're gonna have to test it, but Hunters not having the niche of Wild Spirits being as strong as it was is definitely a very, very big vulnerability to their spot in a raid right now. That's all I'll say. Like other Covenants can be really close to Night Fae as well, like damage wise. But like if a Hunter is just doing single target damage, there are just better classes in the game at that, just straight up. So they kind of need that niche. Mages, not much to say. Somehow Fire Mage has... Yeah, if you were... as Dosu tweeted today, excellent tweet. Dosu tweeted, woke up today 5% weaker and Mages got buffed. How was your day? Or something like that. Fire Mage is better than it was last patch, and they buffed a couple of the other Covenants for non-Fire Mage specs. And some of them in general. Monk, they made a few Mistweaver changes. We already talked about Windwalker. I think the Windwalker changes are really bad for all the reasons we just went over. Just in short, their single target is very low on all of like the single target based bosses or middle of the pack. And basically in a raid, again, the Mark of the Crane thing is way more of a Mythic Plus nerf. It does matter in raids, but it's just much less. Their single target, we're going to have to see, looks to be nerfed anywhere from 2 to like 5 to 6%. We are not going to know, but a 6% nerf to middle of the pack single target is bordering on the line of being not viable for like world first mythic progression. Keep in mind, world first mythic progression, not other shit. Any class is always viable for any other progression. But that they're nerfing, again, they didn't nerf it intentionally. They're fixing a bug, but they didn't give them a buff to compensate for it. They, in my opinion, they kind of need that. So we'll see. Okay, so Paladin, Holy Shock mana increase. I don't think that matters. They have virtually no mana problems at all. That doesn't matter. They buffed the Necrolord Vanquisher Hammer to make it feel better when used. Probably a GCD thing. Let's see. Extra spells from Ringing, Clarity, Curing, now a longer delay. This is a fixed Rep Paladin fix, right? Rep Paladins don't one-shot people anymore, or not with the same interaction at least. Spirit Shell nerf is very real. That's actually the number one thing I am interested in looking at tonight. So obviously it's a nerf with the 80%. That's very, very cut and dry. This is the other one. They're already using spell power trinkets for their own uses of Spirit Shell, and they're obviously going to continue to do that because it increases the cap. But if it caps, you'll be able to see it on my raid frames too. Like if it caps really fast, then I mean that could be a potentially huge nerf. Because there's a lot. I've gone over this a lot, but you know, I still think you'll use Spirit Shell even if it's like pretty heavily nerfed from where it is now, just because of the movement aspect. Like it's easier to get a bunch of your ramp off when you don't have to move, where if a bunch of damage happens when moving, you actually can't like really heal very well with Evangelism. It's like one of the hidden insane things about Spirit Shell is Not just that it obviously does very little to no overhealing unless they expire. It's that you can actually do your ramp before a part of the fight where you would normally really struggle to do it, where you have to move a lot. So very interesting to see what we try as far as like when your evangelism, when your spirit shell, and then just seeing spirit shell in general and just seeing the change. But obviously disc is still pretty strong, or it should be. This is one of the best changes they could have made to Holy. Gone over it before, but just in general, it's just one of the very best changes they could have made. When we talk about Holy Priest, Mistweaver, and Resto Druid, always the same thing. They do not have any clear value or niche ahead of the 3 meta raid healers, and that's primarily due to them not really doing anything unique enough that makes them valuable. This Divine Hymn change is fucking insane. It's going to be up for so long. It is a massive throughput increase. It's a 20% overall throughput increase. That's going to be 15 seconds after the end of the channel of Divine Hymn. Obviously, everything stacks with that, right? So it could be potentially really good. But obviously, they don't do damage while healing, so that's still a problem. They don't have a damage reduction cooldown. All of the same problems, but it's definitely in the right direction. Giving them, rather than increasing their healing, giving them cool niches that could be played around, which absolutely is this, is absolutely where you want to be. Shadow, I actually don't know if they made really any changes to Shadow, right? Mastery no longer benefits multiple times from damage amplifying effects. Does that matter, Shadow Priest? Covenant abilities for Priest. Fey Guardian now grants a 20% damage reduction, was 10%. I don't think this will be relevant in raids ever, but I think in Mythic Plus it could be pretty nice if you're not using it for CDR, but you're using it for a tank thing. And Wrathful Fairy now automatically be sent. If you guys were around for the beginning of PTR and not the end, there was an initial buff to the cooldown reduction of Fey Guardians, but they did revert that. So it's just as it was on live in 9.0, no changes. What, nothing else changes? Yeah. Okay, so I haven't seen Rogue yet. Is there a Rogue in our raids tonight? I think there is. Let me see. I wonder if he has Assassination set up. So a couple cool things, again, for Rogues. I think they have Slice and Dice, just like permanently now, basically, where it gives you Slice and Dice by hitting Envenom, which you keep up all the time. So basically a permanent Slice of Dice. Should be nice to watch. The single target of Venthyr Assassination. Not going to look too much into it. It's basically laying that out with the Covenant abilities. Okay, Shaman, interesting. Chain Lightning damage increased by 35%. Lightning Shield damage, that doesn't really matter. Earth Shock damage increased by 30. Earthquake damage increased by 70. Lava Beam, all that stuff. They did reduce Lava Burst, though, but Earth Shock damage increase is good. Because they buffed Earthquake, though, they buffed... they had to nerf the, Earthquake Legendary slightly. It's somewhere down here. Wait, do they not have these in here somewhere? I believe they did. Maybe... Oh, they're probably going to show Legendaries at the end. The Necrolord change was big for Outlaw. Okay, yeah, I'll have to see that. Oh, Legendary change. Okay, we'll look at those lower. That's fine. Oh, this is quality of life change for Warlocks. Curse of Tongues is now a minute instead of 30 seconds. So it's something you have to put it up on a fight. You don't have to just keep it up the whole time or keep using it. Basically, yeah, very quality of life. Affliction is still insane. Destro is currently pretty good. Demo's a little weird, but, got a little increase, which is good. Covenant abilities being... I don't know if did anything change with Warlock for Covenant abilities? Aren't they just Night Fae all the time still? Oh, did I miss Enhancement? What happened to Enhancement? Did anything change? Lava Lash damage increase. Stormkeeper now increases Chain Lightning by 300%. Okay, and then Stormbringer now correctly triggers... Did they get buffed? Did Enhance get buffed? Just give me a TLDR, chat. Little Enhancey buff? Alright, fuck yeah. Huge buff. Huge buff. Not okay, dude. Chat's lying. We'll see. We do have an enhancement in our first raid. Actually, we have a 228 enhancement shaman in our very first raid, so we can check that out. Covenants. Oh yeah, Fleshcraft change. This is probably the biggest one. I don't know if this would anyone would actually change for this, but Fleshcraft basically became one of the best Covenant abilities, and certainly the best in a lot of scenarios. But overall, one of the best. From basically nowhere. No, we'll do Warrior. It's just Necrolord. There's a reason I'm doing Necrolord before Warrior. I mean, like I said, I don't know if people are going to go Necrolord because of this. I guess you could maybe argue tanks on some fights would want to be Necrolord just for this interaction. But I don't think a lot of tanks need that coverage. Now, why that affects Warrior is Prot just got a straight up damage buff. They got a new Necrolord Covenant ability. It was simmed. I'm sure it'll be simmed more in the future. It's really easy to sim because you can basically just sim the Like if you like the Moonkins with Convoke are a popular choice, right? They already use like a really low eye level mastery on use. So you can just sim how good that is for them, and then sim over a whole fight how much giving them 400 mastery on their cooldowns actually benefits them. Notice it's a little bit harder to set up than other things, but it looks to be about like a 600 to a 650 raid DPS increase to play Conqueror's Banner. Now, they did increase their other abilities as well, but I think the only real liability with Warrior is if you add 600 raid DPS to their pure single target, which is basically what you'd be adding, there's still other tanks that do more than that. But it's obviously the value of getting a raid buff. They're decently tanky. You get, obviously, a raid cooldown with Rally, and they're getting a damage increase, and new Necrolord is good with Fleshcraft. You could see Warriors being in a little bit stronger position. They have some of their legendaries buffed later as well, so definitely could be pretty good. Wouldn't that banner be broken with Unholy DK? It would be good for Unholy DK on the opener. It wouldn't be good basically any other time in the fight, though. Yeah, army's longer than 20 seconds, but they do a lot in the first 15. I think the people are nutting over the Convoke aspect of it. All right, Castle Nathria. I actually called this yesterday somehow on complete accident. I said if they were going to nerf Council of Blood, it was probably the only thing in the raid that still needed to be nerfed. And I thought the only thing that needed to be nerfed on it was the literal tank ad that was out. And I just said they needed to nerf its health or nerf the damage it did, and they did both of those things. I said they should have nerfed it by more, but I mean, this is certainly sufficient looking at it. Health reduced by 10%, 10% less melee. The Castellan's Fury effect, which I believe is the Enrage, was reduced by 15%, and they basically constantly have that if you have it in the group. The thing that actually owns the tank, Sin-Touched Blade, now casts less frequently. It's like basically all of it. Damage by Dancing Fever by 10% is all. It's kind of, again, obviously it helps, but you're already CDing through it anyway, so it's not a huge deal. Interesting thing to note: reduce the damage of Soul Spikes by 5%. Actually, I don't know why I said interesting thing to note. That's not interesting at all. It's almost completely doesn't matter. Almost no one does this strat, and even if you did, this wouldn't change a single thing. Dancing Fools, though, that was the Stavros strat that we tried initially for a couple of pulls, and Echo tried for a while, where you have to kill the Stavros ad at the end, the Dancing Fool. I've already thought that strat, because we killed the boss at sub 210 eye level, so the damage check was really hard, but obviously now at 226 eye level, it's possible it's better. So I was thinking of like trying it, but I think there's no reason to now because they nerfed Nicholas last by so much that learning a new thing just wouldn't be worth it. But for a new guild, I still wouldn't recommend it because something they don't tell you about this is, yes, you can probably kill that ad, but you have to learn a bit of positioning. A Dark Recital goes out at the exact same time you have to kill it. So it's like, it's a little weird in that regard too. But, so it's obviously this strat is more doable. If someone wants to do it for the memes, it's a little bit more feasible. But I wouldn't recommend it ever above the Nicholas. The Nicholas one will be so easy. You're just going to kill every ad now. They'll get cleaved. They'll just die to cleave. I don't care about dungeons, but I don't know. They changed some dungeon shit. Fuck yeah. Love that. Items and rewards. Oh, the Wandering Ancient. That's actually not a joke, though. I actually haven't paid too much attention to it because I'm not a big mount guy. But, dude, look how cool this mount looks. Like, the quality of this mount is insane. This might be one of the best mounts they've ever made. I mean, my character looks ridiculous. Yeah, show off your tree, dude. Like, the mount special, you can shake off a little acorn. You can shake off some ice. The leaves change based on the season. It just looks insane. Too bad everyone has it. Dude, fucking... Who cares? I guess that's true, though. I guess that's a lot of businesses make a profit off that. People only buying a certain amount of things. Oh yeah, gear acquired for Mythic Keystone can now be upgraded by Valor. I got some Valor already, or on my other character at least. You can't use it on any item you had previously for Mythic Plus, only new ones that drop after 9.0.5. So if you have an item you want to upgrade, you do have to refarm it. Definitely a very weird system, but what can you do? You have to get Keystone Master to get 220. Not too much to talk about there. They also did make the cap way higher than they initially had, which is good. I don't Valor just seems like it's not going to be something you're going to use on your main very much. It's just something that's going to be like nice for alts, kinda. But I still think it's like, I think they made Valor with the idea to equal Conquest, but it doesn't. Like, Conquest is just leaps and bounds better still. And maybe and giving Mythic Plus something is good. But it just seems, I don't think I don't think Valor was ever designed to compete directly with Conquest, right? We've already talked about this. It's not as much of a Mythic Plus versus all of PvP. Blizzard doesn't view the game like that. They view the game as how you get loot in PvE versus PvP. And they think that PvP is now equaled by the buff and raid loot and the Valor system with Mythic Plus. Only time will tell. It's probably pretty close, honestly. I mean, obviously the PvP being targeted is so OP, but it definitely is a nice increase. So a few changes here. So the Blood DK legendary buffs are actually really nice. In fact, I don't think it matters too much because like right now you only use a few, but for me it just sparks interest for the idea in the future where you will be able to wear 2 legendaries. Again, this hasn't been announced, but it's something that happened previously when they had this similar legendary system, and I think it's also just a slam dunk easy form of content. Just at some point in the expansion you can wear 2. Makes all the sense in the world. It allows you to interact more with the system they created, and it also creates some cool intricacy within your classes. It would be a huge mistake if they didn't. I don't think it'll happen anytime soon. 9.2 or 9.3 at the earliest. But the reason why I'm saying all of this is Blood DK has insane combos for 2 legendaries. None of them are that great alone. Just some of the like runic power gain increasing ones are. But imagine in the future where you can wear Super Strain and Brynadors, how like unkillable you will be against not very spiky tank like raid bosses. Just insane. And then on top of that, the other cool intricacy is Vampiric Aura now increases Vamp Blood by 3 seconds and grants 5% leech for the duration. That's on the one. There's 2 of them. Yeah, Gorfine's Domination is the one where it's when you Heart Strike, it reduces Vamp Blood, and then this is the one that gives it to your group. So when you can wear 2 legendaries, you will play Red Thirst as a Blood DK, which reduces your Vamp Blood. You will play Gorfine's Domination for some fights. It's not all the time, where it'll reduce your Vamp Blood even more. It's an on use, so it gives you runic power and feels better when you're using it. It lasts longer and gives you leech. The leech is whatever, but then it's giving that to your entire party. So if you've ever done a boss like Sludge Fist, where like every class in the game is fine, but hunters are constantly almost dead when you're killing this boss world first, you can just put all your hunters in like a group with a Blood DK, and they become classes you basically no longer even need to heal because they will have Vamp Blood for every single hard raid mechanic. That kind of intricacy is insane. So I like specifically for raids, I think that's very interesting. Whereas if you're using 2 legendaries for a Blood DK on a personal level in the future, just the runic power increasing ones can make them pretty invulnerable as standalone tanks. And this one's great for dungeons too, the Crimson Rune Weapon one. If you ever, again, playing Blood DKs in dungeons, kind of whatever. They're better than most people think, but like they're obviously not the best. What they struggle with the most is doing massive pulls initially. The only thing that really enables that is having Dancing Rune Weapon up, because having that much parry allows you to kind of emulate what other classes are all the time, because you usually don't have enough time to, heal back all the damage that fast. And this just, in dungeons, you lose Bone Shield stacks so fast now that not only is this a nice generation, but it also is going to reduce the cooldown of Crimson Rune Weapon by like or Dancing Rune Weapon by a ton. So, very good Mythic Plus legendary in my opinion. This one. What else do they do down here? I don't think they changed too much, right? I don't think any of these like are going to be moved into the spotlight, so I don't know if it's worth just going all of them individually. I know this one was like already good, right? But like the Immo Aura thing was the main part. Not sure. Have to see. This is stuff that has to be tested. But generally speaking, with most of these, which we're not going to go over all of them, Blizzard has made a point of looking at all the legendaries, the damage legendary or throughput legendaries specifically, not the utility ones. They're taking all the ones that are not being used and they're buffing them by a lot or a little. Like, but the point is they're buffing them because they want you to have the choice of them now that people have more Soul Ash, which obviously that's a welcome change, right? I think Blizzard would be better off doing that with every talent row they ever release, where, hey, if it's been one entire year and under no circumstances has a DK ever spec'd out of Unholy Pact, just buff Defile and Pestilence until they're even too good, and then nerf them a little bit so you have choice, right? The same thing should be done with legendaries. If none of them are seeing any use, obviously they have that information in-house, or they can find it on logs, I guess. Obviously, just buff the ones that aren't being used until, again, even if they end up being too good briefly, nerf them a little bit. Just, try to fix it. So that's true with most of... I'm not going to go through them. That's like basically the deal. They nerfed the MM legendary because it's interaction with wild spirits. I think they were trying a new build, but I think it got nerfed very recently. It was like the one where like 1 minute true shot or whatever. I'm not sure. Again, we'll test it tonight. I'm not going to give too much comments on class balance right now because, like I said, we quite literally haven't tested it, and our raids for the next few weeks will be that test. Fire Mage, second best legendary that was very, very close to the first legendary, got buffed by 25%. So Fire Mages got buffed. Imagine that. None of these changes matter, I don't think. This looks like a pretty good defensive legendary, but I think you're just going to throw kegs, but could be wrong. Oh, this is nice, right? For Holy Paladins, isn't the Light of the Martyr legendary actually like pretty good now? I remember hearing someone saying that this change is actually pretty nice. It's kind of weird with Holy Paladins though. It's strange to see. It's strange to see how it'll work. Because like the way I see Paladins right now is like they're just way too powerful as a value pick between getting damage and healing. Like I don't think they do the best healing, although it is good. I think they're valuable because they bring damage. So you're going to go more damage. Like for example, if you lose 10% healing on overall for the whole fight as a Holy Paladin, which is a huge number for progression, but you can go the damage legendary and do as much damage as you can for a minute and a half and be literally top DPS even in a guild like limit. Like that is so unbelievably powerful, not even for just overall single target, but even in hard mythic fights, having the ability to basically add a DPS player, not only a DPS player, but like doing a ton of single target to a raid fight is invaluably good. So I think I hope there's a new build with it that's just centered around healing, which is good, but like so they have options obviously, but I really don't know if I see a Holy Paladin in the raid if it's not for just stacking as much damage as possible. Ardent Defender's Sanctum has been redesigned. Oh yeah, this is a cool thing. So they like did something with the conduit though, right? It's just like Ardent Defender cooldown. Honestly, I think that's really good. A lot of people pointed out that it's like, oh, well, yeah, but if it saves you from death, then it's not there. But that's not Paladin's problem. Paladin has struggled with tankiness. It's possible that given a fight, depending on when you're tanking and how often you take damage, being able to have a high uptime on Ardent Defender makes you as tanky as other tanks. And then it always has that little back thing where if you die during it, you come back to life. But even just like treating it as a bark skin or a slightly better bark skin is, I mean, just having that often is good. They need faster cooldowns. So 80 is already up a lot though. Does this not make it up more? Either way. Final verdict damage increased by 15%. No one knows. Magistrate's Judgment, grants, whatever. Okay, Priest. I don't know if any of this stuff matters. Did they change any of the ones that actually do anything? Doesn't look like it. Guys, were any of the Priest legendary changes significant at all? Again, kind of just seems like they're buffing ones that weren't as good, but I don't know if they'll ever... Oh, the Shadow one does? There's a Shadow Mythic Plus. Like okay, I don't care about that. Rogues. So a lot of stuff was changed, right? So there was a couple of cool things for this. So I hope Assassination is good, by the way. I think Assassination Rogue being Biss is one of the few avenues for rogues finding a raid spot again. Two of them. They have a legendary that increases their execute, right? So obviously that one in a fight where execute is the most important thing is fascinating. I think the Doomblade one, right, is supposed to be pretty good. And then in general, I think Duskwalker's Patch is nice, even though it's not something you'll use on every fight. But if it's something where you can be like, oh, wait, I can equip this legendary to have Vendetta up for this, X super important thing that happens every however many seconds. And then Rogue becomes like the best class for that fight. That could be really good. Does anyone know? Because you guys have more energy as Assassination now, and also this got buffed. Does anyone know what you can actually get your Vendetta to? You can't line up Duskwalker for Sludge Pillars. Oh, is it a little bit off? Yeah. But on another fight, it might not be, right? If it's like a minute and 20 instead of a minute and 10, maybe on one fight, there's like a super hard damage check on one thing. Who knows? So you have Shaman. They nerfed the Earthquake Legendary because Earthquake got buffed. So I don't know if their AoE with this Legendary is any different. I just know that outside of it, their AoE got buffed by a lot. But if they would have kept this, their AoE would have been like pretty wild. The debuff from Doom Winds is now persistent through death. I don't know what that means. All I know is that Doom Winds was supposed to already be like pretty good, right? Enhance has like 2 crazy good legendaries. I'm actually really excited to see Ellie. I know that Yonats is supposed to be good in general, so I'm not sure if that's the move, but we'll see. Has anything changed with Warlock legendaries that's significant other than them buffing ones that were already not good. Malefic Wrath for Warlocks is now Abyss single target. Hope you guys have your Soul Ash, dude. Dude, I haven't done Torghast in like 2 months. So I'll talk about Prot Warrior for a second while you guys tell me if anything changed for DPS Warrior. So Reprisal is nice. They nerfed it. It used to be a full duration shield block. Now it's only for 4 seconds. That's still really good. This legendary will be very, very good for certain situations. I don't think it's something you're going to wear every fight, although it could be. But it's absolutely going to be something where if it's a fight that hits really hard and you're struggling with uptime, being able to basically, if you save up your charges, being able to get like 12 seconds of shield block basically on demand is kind of nuts, man. It's probably good in dungeons too. Like you just charge into a pack and you don't have to shield block right away. Like it's so good, but you know, warriors and dungeons and stuff. So the one that made your shield wall go on other players in your party, similar to the Vamp Blood one we were talking about earlier, now gives you an additional charge. The idea of these changes is to make wearing a legendary that benefits the group benefit you more for using it for the group. That's the idea. Same idea with the Blood DK legendary. Kind of crazy that they don't do that for like power infusion, but you know, what can you do? Seismic reverb damage increased to 75%. I don't know what that means. Did anything change with DPS Warrior, by the way? Nothing. Exploiters can be great for PvP. Oh, don't care. And then PvP. We can skip all this. The Maw account-wide unlock has been added to Venari that reveals teleport nodes on all the walk. I mean, guys, does anyone still go in the Maw, chat? Does anyone go in the Maw? Okay, like half of you go in the Maw. All right. Okay. Torghast. This doesn't matter. This doesn't matter. Oh, that's nice. Again, I don't do Torghast anymore, but they changed a couple of anima powers. Probably nothing too significant. Probably not too worth looking at. I'll just say that I hope they have a design shift in mind for Torghast throughout the expansion. I feel like the only reason the product that is Torghast isn't really liked right now is because when you tie a cool new feature you add to your game to a basically required resource, it's kind of not required after a certain amount of time because, you know, if you have all the good ones you would need, you don't really need to farm it. But when it's tied to that, people feel like they need to do it. So they don't really appreciate the content for what it is. They're doing it to get it over with. Now, Torghast, the concept itself is really, really cool. And I feel like it's just ripe for a 9.2, 9.3. People aren't doing it for Soul Ash anymore. And they can add like a Mage Tower-esque super, super hard infinite or just a super hard couple of floors to people do like per spec and get rewards for it, kind of like that. I would love for them to do that. I think people have kind of implied that Twisting Corridors was supposed to be that. But that doesn't matter if it was supposed to be because it's not. That's just not. First of all, there's no meaningful reward whatsoever. It takes forever, like all that stuff. So, no, dude. Blizzard, later in the expansion, Torghast, people loved the Mage Tower. Everyone loved the Mage Tower. Obviously, top-end players who went through and got the rewards loved it, but players that I know that weren't as good, and it took them a long time to do some of those ones, although some classes were much easier than others, it was universally liked. People loved that shit, man. Torghast, it's as if you built Torghast with that in mind, so I really, really hope at some point in this expansion there's some really, really hard content that there's no reason to step in there. Take out Soul Ash, doesn't matter. The only reason you would do it is to challenge yourself and get cool new rewards. Any time like that, shit is insane.